I don't know how much time we have left. We shouldn't have come here. Something is watching us. And we just found a grave. This is the old Hudson Pretzel factory. It was shut down in 1987. Officially, it was a labor dispute. Unofficially, people say workers disappeared here. 10, to be exact. No one really talks about what happened here. No investigations, no official records. Just stories. Stories about men and women who clocked in and never clocked out. Are we really doing this? I asked Jake as we all stared at the old abandoned pretzel factory. We thought we were here to explore an abandoned building, to see rusted out machines, broken assembly lines, maybe a few old papers left behind. We had no idea what we were actually walking into. Inside, the air was thick, stale. A light swings overhead, though no power should be running. A single door stands ahead, slightly ajar. It started with a smell. Something wrong. Thick, heavy, like wet earth mixed with rot. We followed it, and then we saw it. A mound of dirt, partially disturbed. And in the dim glow of the flashlight, something white peeks through the soil. Not just something. Bone. This isn't just an abandoned building. It's a burial site. Getting in wasn't hard. The place had been left to rot for years. The fence rusted through, the walls crumbling. It wasn't a matter of how. It was a matter of why. Why had no one touched this place? Why was there no graffiti, no signs of squatters, nothing? The sound of our footsteps, cautious, slow. The beam of the flashlight catches glimpses of the past. A rusted production line, an overturned cart, a row of lockers, doors hanging open. A long abandoned lunchroom where chairs sit undisturbed, as if the workers had simply stood up and left mid-shift. Smell that? Chloe asked from behind me. That's not just mold. Something is smeared against the far wall, dark, dried. A handprint. Fingers splayed, the imprint unnaturally long. We should have left. Right then. But we didn't. We kept moving, deeper into the factory. And that was our first mistake. Our camera zooms in on a single sheet still pinned to a corkboard, untouched by time. The ink has faded, but the words are still legible. Restricted area. Authorized personnel only. That's when we found it. A file left behind. And one name kept appearing again and again. Our camera zooms in again on the page. A list of workers. But next to 10 names, the word is scrawled in heavy red ink. Terminated. But there were no termination records. No resignations. Just this list. And every single one of them was marked the same way. Where did they go? A loud crash immediately came from the far end of the factory. The camera jolts, spinning wildly toward the sound. For a moment, nothing. Just darkness. Then, movement. A shape shifting between the gaps of rusted machinery. The flashlight flickers. Heavy, dragging footsteps scrape against concrete. We weren't alone. Silence. Except for slow, deliberate breaths, the crunch of footsteps over debris. A voice, hushed but urgent, breaks through the stillness. We should have turned back. We should have left the moment we found that list. But something wasn't letting us go. It was pulling us deeper. And then, we found it. The sound of fingers brushing against metal. A faint echo. Something hollow beneath the surface. Guys, I think there's something under here. One of us said after the shape we had seen earlier just disappeared as if it hadn't been there. The air feels heavier. A hand reaches out, brushing away layers of grime. And there it is, a steel hatch, bolted shut, hidden beneath years of decay. We all exchanges uneasy glances. No one speaks at first. Then, one of us asked the now obvious question. Why would a factory have a locked underground hatch? No one answers. No one moves. The weight of the question lingers. Then, a decision is made, not spoken, just understood. We all decided that we had to see what's below. Metal groans. Rust flakes away as the bolts are wrenched loose. The hatch is heavier than expected, and when it finally gives, it swings open with a guttural creak, exhaling a breath of air that has been trapped for decades. The stench is immediate. Damp earth, rotting wood, and something else. Something putrid. The moment we opened it, the smell hit us. Thick, wet, like something had been left to decay for years. This wasn't just an old storage space. It was something else. Something buried. Then we saw a narrow, rusted ladder descends into complete blackness. Below, something drips, rhythmic and steady. The flashlight beam barely penetrates the void. We go together. No one stays up here alone, I said, as I took a flashlight from Jake. One by one, we climbed down. The walls are tight, pressing in on all sides. The sound of breathing amplifies in the enclosed space, shallow and quick. A single drop of water falls from the ceiling, landing with an echo. Then another, and another. The space opens up. A chamber. Large. Stale air thickens in our lungs as we step onto the ground below. We thought it would be a storage area, an old break room maybe. What we didn't expect were the doors. The flashlight pans across the room, rows of them. Large, metal doors, lining the walls, built into the concrete. Not lockers, not cabinets. Something else. The kind of doors you'd see in a morgue. We all stood frozen, our breath shallow. Each door is numbered. Some are rusted shut. But one is different. One is slightly ajar. That one's open, one of us said fearfully. No one speaks. The silence is louder than words. A decision hangs in the air. Then, a trembling hand reaches forward, gripping the edge of the door. It doesn't take much to move. It was already waiting. The door groans open another inch. The light flickers. And inside, something shifts. Not dust, not fabric. Something moves. Something was in there. Something not natural. We should have run. We should have climbed back up that ladder and never looked back. But something about this place, about those doors, kept pulling us in. And then, we found the first grave. This isn't just a basement. This is a burial site. The silence deepens. The weight of that statement settles on all of us. No one refutes it, because we all feel it. The walls seem closer now. The air feels heavier. We needed to know what was beneath. That was our mistake. We started digging. Hands, shaking but determined, press into the dirt. The first few inches are easy. The soil crumbles away, untouched for years. Then, something hard. Not stone, not metal, something else. A scraping noise fills the chamber as nails scrape against it. The flashlight steadies on the hole, illuminating something just beneath the surface. "Oh my God," Jake immediately exclaimed. The beam of light reflects off something pale. Bone. Fingers tremble as more dirt is pushed away, revealing the curve of a skull, half embedded in the earth. Empty sockets stare upward. The jaw is slightly parted, as if the person had been screaming when they died. It was real. The stories, the rumors, they were real. Someone buried them here. But we were about to find out. They didn't just bury them in the ground. the sound of hands brushing against the walls. The realization comes in fragments. At first, it looks like the cracked concrete has shifted over time, exposing small gaps and fractures. But the flashlight beam reveals something else, something that had been hidden in plain sight. Oh, no, 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 no. The cracks aren't just structural damage. They are spaces between bricks. Bricks that don't belong. Bricks that don't match the rest of the room. And behind those bricks, something is waiting. Fingers press against the uneven surface. A single brick is loose. A deep breath. And then, a pull. Dust rains down. The brick slides free. And beneath it, something soft. Something that should not be there. That's fabric. That's clothing, Jake said. His voice was trembling. A second brick is pried free. Then another. The flashlight reveals more. More fabric. More signs of something. Or someone being sealed away inside these walls. They weren't just buried beneath us. They were entombed. Sealed inside the walls of this factory. Their bodies bricked over, hidden from the world. And there were more. So many more. A sudden scraping noise echoes through the chamber. Not from the team. From deeper in the room. The camera whips around. The open metal door, the one we had seen movement inside, is still ajar. But now, it is wider. Who moved that? I asked with my flashlight in my hand. No one answers. Because no one wants to. We all just stood there scared. We thought we had seen the worst of it. The skull in the dirt. The bodies in the walls. But then we found the message. And that's when we understood. We were never supposed to leave. A scraping sound. Something metallic. A hand wipes away years of grime from a rusted plaque, bolted into the concrete. The letters are faint. Worn by time, but still legible. And as the flashlight reveals the words, a wave of nausea rolls through myself and my friends. The plaque reads, "They were fed to the machine." A shudder. The weight of those words sinks in. A breath catches in someone's throat. The meaning is clear, but no one dares to say it out loud. Not yet. We had to leave. We had to get out. But then, we found the ledger. A dusty, blood-stained book. The cover cracked and curling at the edges. The pages stick together, but when they finally peel apart, the names are still visible. Column after column of names. Dates. And numbers. 10 bodies. This wasn't just some abandoned factory. This was something worse. This was planned. Documented, controlled, and whatever they did here, they made sure no one would ever find out. A long pause. The camera shakes. The sound of a distant creak. Somewhere in the darkness beyond us. The realization sets in. We are not alone. The camera flickers, static distorting the screen for half a second. Then it stabilizes. But something is different. The darkness seems heavier, the silence deeper. It's as if the factory itself is waiting, holding its breath, listening. Something changed. The air in that room wasn't just heavy anymore. It was charged, like the moment before a thunderclap, like the way your stomach drops when you're being watched. We weren't alone. We had never been alone. A shaky hand holds the camera. The lens tries to focus, scanning the far end of the chamber. A shadow shifts, not like a trick of the light, not like dust or debris settling. This shadow moves with intent. "Did you see that?" One of us asked almost immediately. No response. The only sound is breathing, ragged, uneven. The camera adjusts again. A single frame freezes in place, catching something in the darkness. The outline of a figure. Tall, thin, not human. The next frame, it's gone. Then, a sound. A soft clicking noise. Not mechanical. Not animal. Something else. It echoes from the far end of the chamber. Closer than before. We were now beyond scared. Turn off the lights. Don't. Make a sound. I slowly instructed my friends as we all just watched from the darkness. The camera shakes as the flashlight clicks off. Total darkness swallows us. The only light left is the faint glow from the camera's screen, illuminating terrified faces. No one moves. No one breathes. Then, a scrape. Something shifts against the floor. Another click. Closer. A sound that doesn't belong to any living thing. Something is moving in the blackness, just beyond their reach. We didn't stay to see what it was. We ran. We decided to make a run for it, and off we took into the darkness. The silence shatters as someone bolts. The others follow. Footsteps pound against the dirt and metal, kicking up dust as we sprint toward the way we came in. The camera swings wildly, catching glimpses of the factory's twisted remains, rusted pipes, crumbling walls, abandoned machinery. The shadows seem to stretch, warping with each step. Behind us, the clicking noise rises, faster, louder, gaining. "Where's the hatch? Where's the hatch?" one of us yelled as we reached the exit. The camera jerks up, searching. The ladder, the way out. It's there, but it feels impossibly far now, like the factory itself is stretching, making the escape unreachable. Footsteps echo. Something is moving faster than us. So much faster. A flash of movement. Something streaks through the dark behind us, just outside the flashlight's reach. It doesn't move like a person. The sound it makes, a guttural, wet clicking, doesn't belong to anything human. Then the worst thing happened. We lost one of us in the darkness. A sudden scream cuts through the chaos. One of us is yanked backward, fingers clawing at the floor, dragged into the darkness just behind us. "Help me! Don't let it take me!" he screamed as we all hurtled together in fear. We skid to a stop, reaching out. Hands grasp wrists, but whatever has us now is stronger. The sound of fabric tearing, a final gut-wrenching shriek, and then nothing. The void swallows us whole. The only thing left is silence. And just like that, our friend was gone. No body. No trace. As if he had never been here at all. No one speaks. No one moves. The only sound left is the faint hum of static from the camera. The realization is unbearable. We are next. If we stop moving, if we hesitate for even a second, whatever took him will definitely be coming for us. We have to go. Now. I immediately called out to the others. The chase isn't over. It's only just begun. We stumble forward, deeper into the abandoned labyrinth of the factory, our faces drenched in sweat, our bodies trembling with exhaustion. Our eyes dart toward the shadows. The clicking sound is gone. For now. But we know better than to stop. Whatever took our friend, it isn't finished. We kept running. There was nowhere safe. Nowhere to hide. The factory was closing in around us, twisting, changing. We had to keep moving. Our flashlight flickers as we raced through the factory. The light catches something on the floor. Scattered papers. Old newspapers yellowed with time. The edges curl like they had been burned. One of us kneels, fingers shaking as she picks up the top sheet. The camera zooms in. The headline is faded, barely legible, but the name stands out in bold letters. Miller and Sons Pretzel Company owner, linked to local occult activity. The photograph beneath it is even worse. A man in a dark suit, standing in front of the factory when it was still in operation. His face is blurred. Not from time, not from damage. Something about the way it was printed is wrong. His eyes, black voids where his pupils should be. This place, it wasn't just a factory, it was something else. I slowly added as I stared at the papers. A rush of pages scatter across the ground. More articles, more reports. Missing workers. Strange police reports. Complaints from nearby residents. Unearthly sounds coming from the factory at night. The smell of burning that never stopped. The deeper they dig, the worse it gets. One article stands out. The text is bold, a direct quote from a former employee before they too disappeared. They said the machine never stopped running, even after the factory shut down, even after they sealed the doors. The machine still runs. A silence swallows us whole. The words settle like a sickness. We all stare at one another. No one wants to ask the question. No one wants to be the one to say it aloud. What? What was it running on? One of us asked. Her voice was laced with a mixture of fear and anxiety. No answer, because we already know the answer to the question. The path ahead narrows. Rusted staircases lead downward. No one wants to go. Every instinct, every fiber of our being screams at us to turn around. But there is no turning back. Not after what we had just seen. Not after what has already been taken from us. Step by step, we descend. The walls sweat with moisture. The air is thick, suffocating. The flashlight beams twitch across the floor, catching glimpses of movement. Rats scurrying through the debris. But there's something else too. Something that doesn't move like an animal. The dust shifts unnaturally, like unseen hands brushing against the floor. This part of the factory, we weren't supposed to find it. The walls, too clean. The air, too still. Someone had been down here. Recently. Then we saw 8, the machine. It looms in the center of the room, massive, ancient, its metal frame twisted and corroded but still intact. The belts, the gears, the grinders, still sharp, still waiting. The floor beneath it is stained a deep, sickly brown, dried blood seeped into the cracks of the concrete. There is no dust here, no cobwebs, as if time itself refused to touch this place. Someone moves closer, their footsteps echo. Then a sound, a whisper, not from behind them, not from the halls, from the machine itself. The whispers grow, a chorus of voices, low, urgent, some pleading, some laughing, some screaming. We stumbled back, but the whispers follow. They crawl through the air, pressing into our skulls like a sickness, filling the space behind our eyes with something wrong. And then, we heard it. The final sound. The one that made our stomachs drop. The one that meant we had to run. A deep, metallic groan, followed by a deafening slam. The machine had turned on. Gears screech to life, belts snapping into motion. The entire room trembles. Something behind the walls begins to move. The floor vibrates, pulsing like a heartbeat. The machine is waking up. It knows we're here. "Run!" someone from behind yelled before taking to their heels. We all raced off after him immediately. The exit, the way we came in, is closing. The walls shift, metal gates sliding down. Whatever built this place, whatever has been waiting here, isn't going to let us leave. The machine is hungry, and it has been waiting for a long, long time. The sound of footsteps pounding against concrete. Heavy breathing. The camera jerks wildly, the view spinning, light flashing over rusted machinery, crumbling walls, and pools of something too dark to be just water. We're running. We don't have a choice. We needed to survive, to tell the public, what we had just witnessed. The gates were closing. The walls were shifting. This place wasn't just a factory. It was a trap. And we were running out of time. We managed to push forward, stumbling, barely keeping our footing as we sprint down the last hallway. The machine behind us roars, its gears grinding louder, a monstrous, mechanical growl that echoes through the tunnels. The walls shake. Dust pours from the ceiling. The entire factory is waking up. Then, just ahead, an opening. A jagged gap in the rusted sheet metal, leading back to the outside. The exit. The way out. Go! Go now! I called out to the first person in front, with urgency reeking all over my voice. One by one, we threw ourselves through the opening. Hands scrape against metal. Fabric tears. Knees hit gravel. The night air is sharp and cold. Our lungs burn. The factory groans behind us, furious, unwilling to let us go. Then the last person stumbles through, falling onto the dirt. For a moment, there is silence. The wind howls. The factory looms in the dark, its windows like hollow eyes staring out at us. We made it. We're alive. Then, someone looks back. Where's Jake? Voice, horrified, breath hitching as someone just asked. The words sink like stones in water. We all turned in shock, scanning the darkness. Our hearts hammer. Our ears ring. But the truth is already sinking in. Jake isn't with us anymore. He wasn't the one who we had lost earlier. That was Sam. Jake was just right behind us by the exit. My camera zooms in on the gap in the metal. The inside of the factory is still, silent. The machine has stopped roaring. The whispers have faded. There's nothing but darkness, empty, waiting. And then, faintly, so faintly, we almost don't hear it. Something scrapes against the floor inside. He was right behind us. I swear to God, he was right behind us. I said as my face etched in shock. We didn't move. We didn't breathe. Every part of us was screaming to turn and run. But we didn't. We can't. We have to go back. We left him behind. A saddened voice from behind cut in immediately. But no one moves. No one volunteers to step back inside. Because deep down, we already know the truth. If Jake was still in there, he wasn't coming back out. My camera lingers on the factory, the entrance, the darkness beyond it. Then, suddenly, a light. A single flickering light bulb blinks to life deep inside the factory. A dull yellow glow, swaying ever so slightly. It shouldn't be possible. The power was dead. The place was abandoned. But the factory is awake, watching. We weren't the only ones who entered that factory, but we might be the only ones who got out.